Thanks for watching. Um, Hit like and subscribe and share and all of that so we can grow the channel. Really appreciate it. Today we're going to be talking about various subjects, but mostly I'm going to be talking about the Yuga system, system of time. A few things I got to say. I do have an account on Getter, that's Gettr now, and I won't go on Twitter. I just can't do it because it's just too vicious. But I did like Getter, and there's got some really interesting people like Naomi Wolf and Jordan Peterson, and they got lots to say. So I got an account there. And if you go there to my account, I'll put a link to it. There's a link that I have up, which goes to a bit shoot that someone made. And that bit shoot video is of the Zapruder film, and with my voiceover, in which I describe what's actually happening in the Zapruder film. Now, don't send that link to anyone, the actual link to the BitChute video, because you'll get banned. They do not want that video out. But if you go to my Getter page, you can link to it from there. So don't send the actual video address of the BitChute out or in trouble. But do watch it. It's somewhat circuitous way that you have to do it to get in to watch it. You have to agree, and they say, it's too painful for the human eyes to see or something. But actually, if you know what's really going on, the whole thing's a fake, and there's nothing gruesome going on at all in the film. So just another kind of, entry into the hall of fake, I guess. The moon landings and just a lot of things aren't what we think they are. And I think when people see the video that this unknown filmmaker did of it, you'll see it and you'll kind of slap yourself around and go, why didn't I see this before? But that's the nature of a magic trick, right? You don't know really how it works. I like to say, that movies are a bastard art. They take their music from classical music, and the acting is from theater, and the writing is from novels, and the cinematography comes from photography and painting. And that there's really the only thing that's actually endemic to filmmaking is editing. But so if you don't know how to edit, you can't call yourself a filmmaker. But the other art that filmmaking has stolen from is stage magic. People doing magic on stage, and cinema is, especially fantasy and science fiction, is a lot of stage magic, a lot of magic tricks going on. And the Kennedy assassination is a magic trick. They're doing it right in front of your eyes, but if you don't see the nature of the trick, you're seeing what they want you to see and not what you're seeing. And it's just very interesting. There's another thing that's going on right now, which is something that the psychologist Carl Jung talked about, and it's something we should be concerned about. And that is Carl Jung, the great psychologist, and also studied alchemy, by the way. He said the greatest danger that the human race faces is mass psychosis. And mass psychosis is sort of like what happened in Russia in 1917 and in Germany in 1935, where psychology overswept everyone, and they did great harm to their fellow humans, almost in a hypnotized state. And when you examined them after the deeds were done, you find out that they were acting in a virtuous manner. They thought that they were helping the human race. So we're entering into a mass psychosis here in this world right now, and it's being driven by all the things that have been going on, and it has a narrative. And I think it's really important for us who are not in this mass psychosis to speak out and call it out and point it out and say, do we really want to go down the slippery slope of mob rule, and lots of terrible things can happen, and we don't want that. We don't want that. And Our leaders have become so irresponsible that they're pushing us towards it. And I'm not sure they even know what they're doing at this stage of the game. So I'm warning, everybody to just be careful. And also, it's time to find your tribe. It's time to find, a small group of people that think like you, that live near you, that you can depend upon in an emergency, and that they can depend on you in an emergency. And when the mass psychosis, hopefully it never breaks out, but if it does break out, you've got your little tribe that you can use to help protect you from the madness of the crowds. That's the thing, is crowds are a form of madness. And right now, the situation is set up perfectly for this mass psychosis, because one of the things that causes mass psychosis is isolation. And so you become isolated, and then this explodes out into this collective anger. And I think that's where we're headed right now. And so I probably would have to say that if you have the means, I would get to the country and I would start a garden, because the supply chain crisis is just going to get worse if you're following the news. So we know that the major ports in China are completely shut down. I don't know if Port of Vancouver is open yet, but I think it might still be shut down. So we're going to have this incredible supply chain crisis going on for at least 2 or 3 years. So it would behoove you all to be aware of that, and be aware that it's not going to end anytime soon. So you got to buy things that you need, and you need to do it now, and you can't wait. And again, find your tribe. It's really important, really, really important. So all of that is what I'm describing is aspects of what the Vedic text would call, aspects of the Kali Yuga, what I was just talking about. And we are indeed in the Kali Yuga. But I want to talk about the Yuga system here, because only through understanding the entire Yuga system can you understand where we are right now. And to understand where we are right now is it's important, because that way you can take the necessary precautions, for you to do these things. So most of what I know about the Yuga system came from my friend Robert Lawler, who studied with Alain Danilou, who was a kind of an anthropologist. He went to India and he got into like the great libraries, and he found a lot of very rare books, and he came up with a form of the Yuga system that I only use some of it. I don't use the dating part, because I don't think that the dating is right. I don't think any of us have the right dates. So we can only go with what they describe in the book, in the Vedic texts. And then we can kind of wrap what we know around each of these ages. So again, I'm not going to get into dating. I don't know. I know that each yuga is twice as long as the next yuga below it. So you can look at it at like an upside down pyramid. So the Satya Yuga is the longest, then the Treta Yuga is the next one, then the Dwapara Yuga is the next one. At the very tip of your pyramid is the Kali Yuga, each one growing shorter than the age before. In the Satya Yuga, or the Golden Age, this was the age that the earth was warm, there wasn't any cold, everything was just a giant garden, fruit and vegetables were everywhere, nobody worked, people were really tall, 33.5 feet tall. It was ruled by in alchemy and in the Vedic texts, there's not 2 sexes, there's 4 sexes. And I've talked about this before. So there's not 2 sexes, there's 4. And you have to understand this in order to understand the 4 yugas. In alchemy, everything breaks down into 4. And if you can't break something down into four, they say you don't really understand it. So the four sexes are the man within the man, the woman within the woman, and then the man within the woman, and the woman within the man. And once you understand that, all of a sudden, all the stuff about transsexualism and gay and bisexualism and all that, this kind of vanishes. There's no more confusion anymore once you understand that, and they should teach this in school, I think. So in the Satya Yuga, it's ruled by the woman within the woman. And this lifespans are a lot longer, and everybody reaches this high level of wisdom. There's no arguing, there's no fighting. Everybody's highly psychic. So they mostly communicate just through psychic abilities. They don't really talk all that much, if at all. And it's just, a really nice time. And in our memory, we have a memory of this age, is what I think. So the next age is the Treta Yuga, and this is the Silver Age. And again, it's half the size of the previous age. And this yuga is ruled by the men within the men. And then this rule in this age is the beginning of conflict. We start getting colder, the weather. Men become the rulers. At the beginning, they ruled fairly benevolently. And they take care of their people, and everything goes pretty good for the first part of the Treta Yuga, or the Silver Age. But as the male within the male becomes more and more dominant, by the end of the Treta Yuga, we see a world which is now dominated by roving bands of wild males. Who are raping and killing and plundering anyone they can find. You got to remember, there's no cities. We're just hunter-gatherers. There might be the beginning of small settlements, but there's still enough food for us to eat, although it is getting colder and food is getting more scarcer. So it's still pretty good conditions. But by the end of the Treta Yuga, we're in full-blown getting cold. The hunter-gatherers are being assaulted by roving bands of males who don't want to, go pick their own food. They just rather steal it from other people. And that's how the Treta Yuga ends. So again, in the Treta Yuga, humans are 22 feet tall, and they live a much longer time, and not as long as they did in the previous Yuga. Now, all this lawlessness that comes at the end of the Treta Yuga creates the Dvapara Yuga. Now, this is the third, or the age of the Bronze Age, and Dvapara means two, and there's two quarters, has two quarters of virtue and two quarters of sinfulness. So now we're getting into the creation of religions, the creations of laws, walled cities to protect them from the roaming bands of males, and it's ruled by the women within the men. The priest class is who rules this age, and they rule this age through law, religion and law. So now, in order to control the roving bands of wild males, they create laws and walled cities, and they begin agriculture, no more hunting and gathering. They now grow the food inside the walls to protect themselves from these roaming bands of males. Slowly through the Dvapara Yuga, they convert those roaming bands of males into warriors, into armies, to protect the walled cities. So soon there is no more roaming bands of males because they're killed or captured. And now we have walled cities and wars between cities, and then eventually wars between countries. And this is the age of war, but it's not the age of what you might call ethical war. In the Treta Yuga, when two men would fight, they would fight with their swords, and it would be man on man. And you face each other, and whether it be in martial arts or with the sword or whatever weapon you were using, it was man on man. That was a fair way to fight. But in the Dvapara Yuga, now you can start killing people from far away. You can start shooting catapults, fire at them, and guns were invented. And well, I don't think they had guns yet, but arrows, bows and arrows, and crossbows. And so now a new kind of warfare emerges where people would sit up on top of the walls and shoot down at the armies trying to get in. So that was the new way of warring, and they would drop fire on them, and again, kind of a not face-to-face fighting as much anymore. And so humans are now about 11 feet tall in this yuga, and you can kind of understand how like these ancient monuments got built. If we had, say, 22-foot tall humans walking around in the Treta Yuga, well, then they could build these gigantic monuments easily. So if they had high psychic ability, they may have even been able to move these big rocks around with their minds. And of course, with each yuga, we lose our ability. That's another reason why in the Dvapara Yuga, we have to have laws, because in the other two yugas before that, we didn't need any laws because we had a sense of what was right and wrong, and we didn't need to write it down. But now we have to write it down because we don't know what's right and we don't know what's wrong. So we need a 10 commandments, and we need, the Vedic texts that tell us, what to do and how to be a good person. This yuga started out with the murder of the pharaohs and the emperors, mostly by poison, by the priest class. So the priest class rose up through the Treta Yuga, but they never had any power. But in this yuga, they have a lot of power, and they took over the Treta Yuga. They stopped the empire of the man within the man and went with the woman within the man. And so we became civilized, you might say. Language developed, and writing developed, and the arts developed. And because you don't need art or any of this stuff in the previous ages, because you were psychic. People could see your thoughts, you could see their thoughts. But this, the wall is now coming down on all of our abilities now, and we're getting, worse and worse off. Well, the age of the law, which is what this yuga is, the age of religion, the age of the law, ends with the Kali Yuga. The Kali Yuga is the fourth, and it's half the width of time that the Dvapara Yuga is, as opposed to both the Treta and onward. So in the Kali Yuga, everything turns backwards. We fall into disuse, we fall into health. The average height is 5'3". The environment is polluted, scarcity is everywhere. I wrote some things down. Let me see what I said here. I said, yeah, here. I wrote some stuff down. I'll repeat it here. As this is just a great line from the Bhagavad Gita. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from childhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. And these are predictions in the texts for what happens in the Kali Yuga, the age we live in now. And the age of the Kali Yuga is ruled, by the way, by the men within the women. So you can see that a lot of our leaders now are these men within the women. From what the woman that was running Germany, Merkel, and all over the place. The woman that runs New Zealand, all these female leaders are men within the women. They're what they're doing is that they've reached the conclusion that the laws that society was based on were all written by men, and they were, and that they have an attitude about men, and they think that the men really screwed up, and maybe the men did screw up. I don't know. I don't think so. I think we all screwed up. But they're blaming all of our problems that we face today on men. And so, and not just the man within the man whom they really hate, but yes, the woman within the man too. The people that wrote the laws and wrote the religions, they don't like them either. They had a sort of a relationship. But as the man within the woman gets more power, she is against those two groups primarily. And she does have the woman within the woman as an ally for a short while, until the woman within the woman realizes what the man within the woman's game plan is. And they're beginning to figure that out, which is what these women that are going to the school board meetings and screaming at the mostly female school board members, what are you teaching my kids? What are you teaching my kids? And so you're seeing the alliance of the woman within the woman and the man within the woman beginning to fracture now. And the man within the woman is eschewing all laws. That's what's going on in the world right now. They feel that there's not really a need for laws, and so they're not going to follow laws. And we can see that right now. You can go into a store in San Francisco and steal. If you steal under $1,000 in shoplifting, you can't get arrested. So we're losing our laws. We know that the elites get away with it all the time. Look at Alec Baldwin. He's gonna get away with murder. So if you're in the elite, then you don't have to worry about the law. And so the law, which is the only thing that was really guiding society, written by the women within the men to control the men within the men, and was probably needed at the time during that particular era. Now the men within the women they're not replacing laws with anything else. And so you can see the seeds of the Kali Yuga being planted here. Also, the men within the women, because of their dislike of men, have created a world where there's no advantages in being a man. A woman can go get a really good job. She can have kids out of wedlock and still take care of them because she's making, 6 figures a year. She doesn't never need to get married. Most of the people in college are women, we now know. And women are zooming forth as they would in this particular yuga, because that is what is prophesied. So what's happening is now young men who are in their 20s, and I know these guys, and I feel for them, I really do. They tell me, what's the point? What's the point of working? I'm never going to get a wife. I'm never going to get a girlfriend. I'm never going to have a family or kids. So why should I work? Why should I, bust my ass 12 hours a day being a truck driver, making $140K a year when I've got no one to spend that money? That is a super Kali Yuga thing. Because if you don't have your young men wanting to get into life, wanting to make something out of themselves, and just, go ahead and just pick pot in September, October, make $15,000 a year and go live in their mom's basement and play video games, which is what's going on. So they work 2 months a year and they got enough money for them to live off of, and that's it. So they don't contribute anymore. And now they become not only are they not contributing, they're living off the society, and things are getting more and more scarce. And so that's going to create its own problems. In medieval Europe, no, not medieval, in the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries in Europe, they had this periodic witch craze where they would go out and they would, we're given the story, the church tells us there were real witches, and they were going out and getting rid of the real witches. Like there's witches that were casting spells and riding on brooms. I don't know. Then the other people say, oh no, they were just nice people that the church killed. Well, I did a deep dive into the whole thing. I read an essay by a guy who really did his homework. And it looks like the witch crazes were actually a periodic cleansing of the mentally ill. People who weren't contributing to society. Remember, it was very cold then, and food was scarce. So you couldn't have someone who wasn't working eating. So, the harshness and reality of those years and that society dictated that, mental illness was something you couldn't afford. So they would do a periodic cleansing of the mentally ill. And I actually believe that when I think about it. And then if you look at in the 19th century in Europe and in the United States, we had these giant mental asylums with thousands and thousands of people in them. We don't have those anymore. I don't know who was in those mental asylums, but and we didn't have psychiatry then, so I don't know how you would determine whether somebody was mentally unfit or not. But maybe it's obvious when somebody's mentally ill. I don't know. But anyway, here's some quotes from the Vedic text about the Kali Yuga. Then, O king, religion, truthfulness, friendliness, tolerance, mercy, duration of life, physical strength, and memory will all diminish day by day because of the powerful influence of the age of Kali. In Kali Yuga, wealth alone will be considered the sign of a person's good birth, proper behavior, and fine qualities. And law and justice will be applied only on the basis of one's powers, just like what I just said, like with Alec Baldwin. Men and women will live together merely because of superficial attraction, and success in business will depend on deceit. Womanliness and manliness will be judged according to one's expertise in sex, and a man be known as a Brahma just by wearing his clothes. So you can just put on the robe of a Brahmin and you can declare yourself a wise and holy person in this age. Whereas before you had to study for years to learn how to be a teacher. A person's spiritual position will be ascertained merely according to external symbols. And on that same basis, people will change from one spiritual order to the next. A person's priority will be seriously questioned if he does not earn a good living. And one who is very clever at juggling words will be considered a learned scholar. A person will be judged unholy if he does not have money, and hypocrisy will be accepted as virtue. Marriage will be arranged simply by verbal agreement, and a person will think he is fit to appear in public if he has merely taken a bath. A sacred place will be taken to consist of no more than a reservoir of water located at a distance, and beauty will be thought to depend on one's hairstyle. Filling the belly will become the goal of life, and one who is audacious will be accepted as truthful. He who can maintain a family will be regarded as an expert man, and the principles of religion will be observed only for the sake of reputation. As the earth becomes crowded with corrupt population, whoever among any of the social classes shows himself to be the strongest will gain political power. Losing their wives and properties, such avaricious and merciless rulers who will behave no better than ordinary thieves, the citizens will flee to the mountains and forests, if there are forests. Harassed by famine and excessive taxes, people will resort to eating leaves, roots, flesh, wild honey, fruits, flowers, and seeds. Struck by drought, they'll become completely ruined. The citizens will suffer greatly from cold, wind, heat, rain, and snow. See how all the extremes of weather are in there? That's exactly where we're going. And I can actually explain that. And coming up show, I'm going to talk about the weather. And I'll talk about the jet stream and how it's gone from just like that to wide variations, sucking cold out of the Arctic, sucking the heat out of the Sahara, and bringing them both, 1 week it'll be freezing cold, and next week it'll be super hot. They will be further tormented by quarrels, hunger, thirst, disease, and severe anxiety. Severe anxiety is, by the way, what causes mass psychosis. That's what's causing it right now. People are suffering severe anxiety. The maximum duration of a life for a human being in the Kali Yuga will become less than 50 years. By the time the Kali Yuga ends, the bodies of all creatures will be greatly reduced in size, and religious principles of followers of the Dharma will be ruined. The path of the Vedas will be completely forgotten in human society, and so-called religion will be mostly atheistic. The kings will be mostly thieves. The occupations of men will be stealing, lying, and needless violence. And the social classes will be reduced to the lowest level of the Shudras. So we're in the age of the merchant class right now. In the Vedic tradition, there's 4 classes. There's the Shudras, and I'm not going to go through them all, but the age of the merchants is what the age is right now. And so the only thing that merchants care about is buying and selling. And so that becomes the entire underlying bailiwick of our entire society, is buying and selling. And since you can't buy and sell spiritual things, well, you can, but not very easily, they become more and more useless. So as I've said many, many times, yes, I don't know when we went into the Kali Yuga. I've read Sadhguru's books on it. I've read Alain Delon books, Danalou's books on it, Robert Lawler, and I've had hours and hours of conversation on duration of the Kali Yuga. But I have to tell you that this is all my own opinion. I don't think there's anybody that agrees with me. But what I see, what's going on, I'm going to say something kind of scary, is I don't know if we didn't, I think we may have just entered the Kali Yuga, like maybe 150 years ago. I see the age of the women within the men going from the time of around Alexander the Great to just recently. I think we've our recent presidents, like both Bushes, were kind of women within the men, and Obama's kind of a woman within a man. And so I think we see that, and Clinton, and maybe even Trump and Biden. So I don't see we haven't elected the woman within the man within the woman yet in this country, but we will soon. But I don't see, when I see all the parameters of what has to happen for the Kali Yuga to come, which is an ice age, which is something we'll talk about in future shows, and the rule of the women, men within the women, then that tells me that we may have just entered the Kali Yuga, which is not good news, because that means this thing's just getting going. And again, it says that everybody will die around the age of 50. I think the average human lifespan is about 58. So we haven't got down to 50, although with what's going on in the world right now, we may rapidly diminish down to an average lifespan of 50 years. It really depends on where you live. But yes, we have to add chemicals to our food to grow it, because the earth has not the ability to grow the nutritious food that we used to have. The forests are going away and being diminished. Here in the United States, any forest that's above 10,000 feet is dead or almost dying, and will be dead soon. The beetle bark disease is destroying the entire forest. They're not cutting the trees down. They're leaving them up, which is going to make the mother of all forest fires happen here in the United States. I predict soon, like maybe even this coming summer, it's going to happen. And it's going to be outrageous what happens. And of course, fires are now gone all the way up into British Columbia and Washington State. They never ever had to worry about forest fires before, and now they have to worry about them. So there is something going on. There's also a little known thing going on, which is insects are disappearing. When I was a kid, I could leave my door open in the summer, and like literally thousands of insects would cling to the screen. Now it's maybe 10% of that. And with the insects dying off is the birds dying off, because they eat the insects. And there are a lot less birds than there used to be. I know, I remember. So I don't know when we entered the Kali Yuga. Yeah, I wish we'd get out, but I don't think we've been in it that long, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that, and they don't want me to, they don't want to hear that from me. They want us, a lot of you think that the golden age is right around the corner, and hey, maybe it is. I don't know everything, but I know this: time is speeding up, just like the Vedic text said. Time is speeding up, so each second is a little bit faster than the second before. And that is definitely a symptom of the Kali Yuga. So in the age of the Kali Yuga, we're ruled by Kali, and she is a really mean bitch, and she doesn't take any crap from anybody. And that's the way this is going to be. It's going to be a very feminized anguish, and then it will end. Now, the question after that is what happens when the Kali Yuga ends? Does it manifest back again into the golden age? And or as some people say, we have to go backwards. So we go back to the Dvapara, the Treta, and we go that way. I don't know. I would think that my research into alchemy and the cross of Hende say, and the Vedic texts 100% agree with this, that the Kali Yuga ends in a giant conflagration from the sun. Now, the sun is a ball of plasma, and it starts emitting gigantic lightning bolts, for lack of a better term. And these bolts strike all the planets and wreak havoc and light the entire earth on fire. At the end of the Kali Yuga, according to the Vedic texts, the entire earth catches fire and everything dies. All life dies, and so that the the essence of all life is vanished. That the only way the golden age can return to earth is for all traces of life to vanish, so you can start everything anew. In the Purana texts from India, there's a very important line that actually Robert Lawler pointed out to me, and that is that it says that right near the end of the Kali Yuga, the elites realize what's going on, and they go to outer space and they build gigantic arcs, and they take these arcs to a planet, another planet. This planet is called Mahar, M-A-H-A-R. Sounds very close to Mars. And they go to this planet and they go underground and they wait for the conflagration to come to an end. And then they come back to the earth with all the genetics that they took with them. So just like Noah's Ark, right? Noah took 2 of each animal and saved the world from the flood, and then he repopulated. Well, this is where that myth probably came from, because the Vedic texts are far older than anything in the West. They had, their civilization was, we're only catching up to how advanced their civilization was. The civilization in India that produced all these texts. They knew everything. They were seriously advanced. They had flying machines. They weren't what we are told they were. They had high tech, different high tech, but high tech. And these texts say that they built these giant arcs, and the elite took off with all this genetics material, and they went to another planet to wait out this conflagration. So the Cross of Hende, which is my book that I co-wrote, agrees with the Vedic text. And now I did not read the Vedic text until after I finished my research on the Cross of Hende. Of course, I was completely blown away by them. I still am. And you have to understand that the first alchemy was in India, and then it went to China and Egypt and Babylon, and finally to Europe. So the alchemical understanding of reality is a very it's a combination of science and shamanism. It uses shamanism to discover scientific concepts and uses science to confirm shamanistic concepts. So a lot of this as we've lost our ability to our psychic ability, which now in the Kali Yuga we've lost almost completely, and we're blown away by anyone who has psychic ability. We pay money to go see them and all that. In this age, we have to use language, and language is really not very precise. So that causes more problems and more distortions of reality. And so the things that are going on in our world right now and for the last 2 years are a incredible symptom of being in the Kali Yuga. Mass psychosis is another symptom of being in Kali Yuga. And so I would have to say that both the Russian Revolution of 1917 and what happened in Germany in the 30s, they were both mass psychoses. So we were definitely in the Kali Yuga then. So when we entered the Kali Yuga, I don't know. Hopefully, Elaine Danilou and Sadhguru say that we entered in 3100 BC, which is an interesting time to choose because it really was the beginning of civilization and writing and math and all these things. So I kind of, in some ways, I do like the idea that it goes, it starts in 3102 BC. It ends, I think, in 2500. So another 400 years or so to go before it ends. That's their version. Of course, other versions are really long, like this. The Kali Yuga is 12,000 years long. The Golden Age is 432,000 years long. And there's something to be said for that, because if you look at the kings list from Babylon, it goes back 250,000 years. So each king is given his duration, and some of these kings have 10,000 year long reigns. So, and this is in Babylon. So there is some evidence, both in the Bible and in the cuneiform tablets in Iraq, that say that people did live longer before and they were taller. And this is why, by the way, the Smithsonian is hiding all the giant skeletons that they find all over Arizona and Utah. They keep finding, these like 18-foot tall guys buried, and they immediately come in and they remove the skeleton and they put it into the hide it in the museum so no one can see it. The reason is they don't want these texts from India to have any credibility. They probably think they're real, but they don't want you to know they're real. So if they keep, that's what all this hiding is about. So that, if you start telling people what are in these texts and people don't understand what's in these texts, they just think you're crazy. And, but these texts are not crazy. And the Yuga system is real. And again, it's just like summer, spring, fall, winter. Those are the 4 seasons of, same thing with life. Your first part of your life is your golden age, and every day is really long and time takes forever. And then you turn like 18 and you go into your silver age, and now you got to get responsible for life, and you got to become a man if you're a man, and you got to become a woman if you're a woman. And then when you get to your 40s, you go into your bronze age, and you slow down, you get arthritis, and then finally in your 60s you go into your Kali Yuga, your winter age. Your hair goes white like mine. Like snow falls on the ground in the winter, and you have to rely on devices to get by in your life, hearing aids and canes, and so whereas you didn't need devices before, but now you do. So we're in the old age of the earth right now, and that's why we're living off of our devices, because that's what old people do. Even if you're young, you're an old person. And again, old people get stuck in their ideas and they don't want to see and hear anything new. And that's kind of what's going on here with this mass psychosis. They don't want to hear it. You even present evidence and they don't want to look at it. And we know, we've all met these people. They're everywhere now. And so, we've all realized that there's actually no point in talking to these people anymore. And that's why I say, find your tribe, find like-minded people, gather together, share and break bread together, and learn how to defend yourself too. take up a martial art if you're young. And I know that taking Aikido was one of the greatest things I've ever done. It gave me a confidence that I never had before that. And I highly recommend everybody take up a martial art and learn how to defend yourself. The world's going to get crazy, and it's going to get crazier. And I don't think the Kali Yuga is going away anytime soon. So I just wanted to let you guys know all this. And again, you can create a sacred space in your house. Remember, that's what I keep telling you with the light pyramids. And you and your family can live in a sacred place. You can live in your golden age within your house. You can eat foods that are good for you. You still have a choice. You can grow your own food, and then you know it's good for you. So get chickens. That's what we've got. Getting cows next. So everybody, I just want you to know that, yes, it's the Kali Yuga. Yes, it's a very weird time to be alive. But you know what else happens in the Kali Yuga is the rapid absorption of knowledge. There's never a time, never a yuga where the ability to gain knowledge is at the tips of your fingers. And that's what we have today. So that's kind of the good side of the Kali Yuga is we're flooded with knowledge. Now, it's hard to discern, what's good knowledge and what isn't good knowledge. I'm not going to deny that. But for a person like me who's a complete knowledge freak, I can literally study a subject and go down into a deep depth, dive into it nowadays, where 30 years ago I couldn't do that. I'd have to go to a library and I'd have to live near a library and have to spend the whole day at the library, and I'd have to order books from away from the library. Everything took forever. And today I can do it instantly on the internet. So there are good things with the Kali Yuga. I can do shows like this, from my home. And, but, we also have to consider protecting ourselves from the great dangers that lie all around us. And I want you all to be protected. Anyway, I'm Jay Weidner. This is Reality Check. Please hit subscribe and like and all that other stuff. And let's build the channel. Thanks for watching.